Okay, good morning, guys. I hope you had a great weekend. We're going to get started here with our pre-market analysis for Monday, April 19th, 2021. So let's look at our high time frames. Now, we did have our weekly candle close, so we can go back and see if everything is holding there. But first, I do want to start with my super high time frame, which is my quarterly. And nothing has really changed. So pretty much all of last week, we only spent about 2 or 3 seconds on each of these because, as you can see, we just continue to push with no signs of any exhaustion, at least on these super high time frames. So we've got our 3-month or quarterly looking very strong. Our monthly as well. Remember, we have about 2 more weeks left in April here. So that we're about 50% done here with this candle, but we still have another 2 weeks for this to develop. But right now, everything again looks extremely bullish. In fact, now we're getting all the way into almost the 90 range up here on RVI, which is extremely bullish. You can see on the monthly, we have never broken, at least in the last 12 years, we haven't even gotten close to even breaking 60 on RVI. So you can just look at this. This market is just unbelievable how much it continues to push. So let's go down to our weekly. So our weekly candle officially closed, obviously last Friday here. And again, still absolutely no signs of exhaustion as we push. Now, the current weekly candle, we have all week for it to develop. And right now, so there's not much to be said other than looking back to the previous close and seeing that there's really no signs of exhaustion so far. When we get to our daily here, the Friday candle, let me redraw this. This is what we were drawing, I think. Actually, I'm not sure what happened here with all these lines. Let's go ahead and look at this again. So we have this previous peak in RVI to look at here back on April 12th. And so since that high, we've gone to push, let's see, about 60 points up. And RVI has again pushed up higher as well. And now we're up in the 80 range on RVI, which we haven't even really been there since all the way back in September of 2020. But things are looking very bullish here. Again, from a daily perspective, remember we had that little bit of bearishness back a few days ago, maybe at the beginning of last week. And then we did end up getting just a very small little correction there. And then we continued up. And so as of Friday, no signs of exhaustion like we had back on, I want to say Tuesday-ish, Tuesday, Wednesday. Really nothing there right now. Now we've opened and are kind of settling down at the lower range of the Friday's price action. But there's really not much to be said at the moment from the daily. Everything just looks bullish with no clear signs of exhaustion so far. So let's jump down to our 4-hour and start to get a little bit closer to a little more granularity here. And so you can see that as we've pushed, and this is kind of the case, after we had that pretty strong push coming into, I believe it was the first week of April, it was like every time we pushed, we got exhaustion off the highs, and then we got continuation off the lows. And you can see this pattern here. And sometimes this pattern is kind of indicating overall the market is it's having a lot of trouble continuing up, and it eventually kind of peters out, and then we get some type of reversal. But it looks like coming into the beginning of last week, it just continued to push, and then we got the same exact thing we got from the week before, where price pushed to new highs, the RVI pushed to lower highs, and then again, that high we made on Friday, we then got another lower RVI, and on the pullbacks, you could then see that we kind of had that continuation going on. And so it's been a little messy here on this 4-hour, and it kind of indicates that we're kind of losing our strength. So we'll have to see what happens. That doesn't mean that we then push another 300 points here this week or something crazy. But we're going to want to kind of watch and see what the market does over the next few days. Because again, there's a little bit of continuation there off the low at 41.60.75, which I think is our overnight low. So we got a little bit of bullishness there, And so that's kind of where we're going to start with our bias for today, right? So we have all our high time frames giving us really no signs of exhaustion and looking very bullish. And then on our 4-hour, we had that bearish signal off the all-time high. We did get as much of a pullback as we could expect in this kind of push. And now we have off the overnight low, we have a bullish continuation pattern here. And no signs of reversal from a 4-hour perspective. So we're going to want to watch that level and see what the shorter time frames have to say off the overnight low here. So again, the 1 hour off the all-time high from Friday, we then got that reversal pattern and we got the pullback. Now off the overnight low, we do not have as clear a case as we did on the 4-hour. We did get so there's really nothing right now. On an hourly perspective, we had a little of exhaustion when we pushed up to the overnight high. And so now we have kind of two things that we need to watch. Now, if all the shorter time frames indicate the bullishness off the overnight low, then we can ignore the fact that the 1 hour does not quite have it. But right now, the 1 hour is now showing a little bit of exhaustion off the high. So we're going to tie this all together when we get through this. So don't get too confused here. But we did have a bullish indication from the 4-hour off the overnight low. Now the 1 hour gave us a little bit of exhaustion as we tried to push to test the all-time high. So let's see what the 30-minute is saying here. So 30-minute, it confirmed the bearishness off the overnight high. And then off the overnight low, we did not get that same 4-hour signal. So right now, that 4-hour might end up being something we don't really focus on. If we start getting a lot of bearishness off of that overnight high, we might expect a deeper pullback, especially because just now on my super short time frames, I got a short at 69.50 that I told everyone about. And from there, we could end up getting a deeper retracement here. So we'll have to watch. Now, right now, in this very immediate region, we did then get a little bit of bullishness here off of, let's see what the low is, 64. So we're going to be kind of watching that 64, right? I think we just tested it actually by a tick. So it looks like it might end up breaking. So let's see, this is getting a little bit messy here. And again, I want you guys to kind of keep in mind that we're doing this analysis so that we can get picture perfect, what I like to call when the stars align. And when the stars align, every time frame is giving us a very clear picture of what's going to happen in the market. Now, unfortunately, and you can even see, I told you guys on Friday before I left that the market, you basically could have just walked away because Friday was just completely sideways. We ended up having this kind of pendant kind of thing where we just got tighter and tighter and tighter, and then right at the end of the day, you got just a little push up to break the previous all-time high right around 78.50 and broke it by about 5 points. Now remember, on Friday we were looking for 41.80 as our first area of resistance. I put out in the morning a report, I guess you could call it, 41.80, I think 4200 and 4250, and the market came just a point and a half in front of that, pulled back, and then broke it just by 3 points. And so that 41.80 ended up working out really nice. But I digress. And really what I'm trying to say here is we were really, really sideways all day Friday until that one breakout. And then this Globex here, we're really, really sideways. So it's going to be hard, unless every time frame gave us a really clear indication, it's going to be hard to have a super clear bias here because, again, we've just been bouncing around from pretty much 41.60 to 41.70 for what could be argued is almost 24 hours of price action. So right now, the 30-minute has that little bit of bullishness off that low, and now we're testing it. And the 10-minute, let's see here, I don't expect there to be anything too clear, again, because of the sideways action. As we dive in and we zoom in to these shorter time frames, you can see that we're just kind of stuck in a lot of chop. So the 10-minute had a little bit of bearishness here, you can see, when we push down to test basically the CP, or that 68 and 69 area. And then when we pushed up here just a little further, this is when I told everyone about 10-15 minutes ago, we had a little bit of bearishness there. So we could expect at least to 66.50 from the signal I was looking at. And now we're down at 63.50. So far that's really following through nicely. And we don't, again, have any clear picture here just because of how sideways it is. And some mornings that's just how it's going to go. So let me go ahead and just kind of review everything so that we can start to get at least somewhat of a picture of what we want to do coming into the open. And first, I do want to look here at my 3-minute, and let's see. So from this 3-minute perspective, it's not really helping us out. Outside of the fact that we have that bearish signal off 69.50. So we have a few time frames all giving the bearishness off there. And so we could expect a little bit more of a push here down. But because it's so sideways, we have this decent support resistance in the market, anywhere from 63 to, I'd argue, even 61 here. And so if they can't get through that, then we could expect some more chop up in here, or maybe that's it, and then we go right through it. So let me get a clear picture for you guys. It's a little tough this morning, but I do want to kind of recap everything for anybody, even as a experienced trader but new to this kind of strategy. Their heads are probably spinning because there's a lot of contradicting information on the short time frames. So let me just dial it back here. And we want to remember that every single high time frame, from the quarterly all the way down to the daily, it looks extremely bullish. So from a zoomed out perspective, everything looks very, very strong. Now we did have, from the 4-hour down, some bearishness off the all-time high, which is to be expected because as we push here, we're going to get those exhaustion patterns. But we do have the bearishness off the all-time high when we look at the 4-hour, we look at the 1-hour, even if you look at the 30-minute and the 10-minute. So this pullback makes a lot of sense. The question is, how far is the market going to pull back, especially taking into consideration what's going on in the market and what's been happening for the last month and a half. So there's bearishness there, and so we're probably going to have to take this morning with some kind of stipulations here. And so if we end up holding this 61 area, we should at least stay in the chop zone here this morning. All right, so let me zoom out to my 3-minute, and we'll start to get some decent levels to watch. Now 64 is something that I put on the chart, and I think it might have been here from last week. But you can see how well, going all the way back to, let's see, this was the beginning of Friday, how we had a lot of resistance in the market at 64. And then when we broke above it, it became support here 2 times. We came down and broke it just by maybe a point. And then in the overnight here, we're starting to find a bit of support in this area. So if this 64 holds, we can expect to chop around here. But we don't have clear signals from all of our time frames telling us that this could be the low, and then we go ahead to jump up and test, because just kind of looking here, my 60-minute has a little bit of bullishness down here as we test. My 30-minute has a little bit of bullishness that is showing as we test. In the 10-minute, now that we just made this low, as I've been kind of doing the pre-market here, we're starting to actually get some decent bullishness off the low. So we want this to hold in this region to push higher. Now this morning I have to say is a little difficult because of all the sideways, and so unfortunately we might have to take this kind of level by level and signal by signal until we start to get a clearer picture, and sometimes that's just how it's going to have to be. So we'll just monitor this as we get into the open, and if we get a nice clear kind of 1-minute 512 and maybe even 3-minute signal, we're going to go ahead and take the market in that direction. So I wish I had a really clear one for you guys, but this morning it's just not going to be. So we had a decent sell signal here, 69.50. The market made it to almost to 63.50, so almost 6 points. But we're still holding in this chop right off 64 here. So I did mark 61.50 as being decent as well, because if you step back here and you throw the line just right there, you can see that 64 was nice and 61 is kind of similar, and such that the market came up, found a lot of resistance there, pulled back. We found more resistance back in the middle in the middle of the night before Friday's session, and then this is the pullback we got just after the open on Friday, and it bounced, and then in the overnight we also bounced just around that 61 area. And so these two levels are going to be interesting in this chop. Now on the other side, if we push up here, we do have some decent prediction points to look at. All right, we do have the area where the gap formed. So we closed, I want to say right around, let's see what the actual close is, 66.50. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Give me 1 second. 72.25. So we're going to mark that, and we're going to say that's where the gap started there. So I'm going to make this a different color, and we'll just do white. So that's where the gap started, and then we did open down here right around 65, but that level does not seem to really have any relevance, so we're not going to pay attention to that. But we've got a couple levels above us to watch, and remember, because it's kind of a difficult market to forecast right now, we're going to have to kind of take it level by level here. So 72.25. Got that on there. These we're going to get rid of. And we're just about a minute and a half from the open. And because everything is difficult this morning as far as a clear picture goes, and as far as this chop goes, going to want to kind of be a little careful in here, because we might end up, due to the range, we might end up just having a lot of little 3 to 6 point moves up and down, unless the picture changes at the open here. So I will definitely be here as your human indicator to point out some good entries and good levels here. Just quickly notice before the open here that my 4 hour, 1 hour, my 30-minute, and even on my 10-minute, we have bullishness when they came down here off of 63.75. Now it could be broken and we continue, but I'm just kind of noticing I see on a lot of my intermediate time frames a little bit of bullishness off of that test down here of this kind of 63, 64 area. So we'll see if they can hold that. But remember, it's a lot of chop, and so I don't want to confidently say 100% or with confidence that we should push, but we'll keep it in mind here. Okay, so the market just opened, and we're going to watch to see if they can hold. Now we do have a little bit of bearishness right now off of the VWAP from a 512 perspective. So we'll see if that holds to push down a little further here. But I'm not going to be aggressive, being that it's Monday morning, being that the market is so sideways.